It's 3 a.m. The house is quiet, but something is already awake. These are true horror stories. Real people, real encounters. And if you're watching this alone, maybe you shouldn't be. Welcome back. Tonight, we are going somewhere most people don't come back from the same. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you 5 true stories submitted by real people. People who are still losing sleep. People who wish they could unsee what they saw. These aren't ghost stories meant to entertain. These are accounts of something far worse. The kind of horror that doesn't announce itself. The kind that waits. Before we begin, check the room you're in right now. Is every corner lit? Is every door closed? Good. Because what I'm about to tell you tends to follow people home. The visitor at 3:07. Our first story comes from a woman named Rachel, a 34-year-old nurse from a small town in rural Ohio. She submitted this account 8 months ago. She asked us not to use her last name. She said, and I'm quoting directly here, "I don't want it to find me again." It was a Thursday night in October. Rachel had just finished a double shift at the hospital, 12 hours on her feet, and she came home to an empty house. Her husband was out of town for work. Her 2 kids were spending the week at their grandmother's. She was completely alone. She made herself a cup of tea, checked her phone, and by 11 p.m., she was already in bed. She fell asleep quickly, exhausted the way only hospital workers know. But at 3:07 in the morning, she woke up. Not because of a sound, not because of a nightmare. She woke up the way you sometimes do when something in the room has shifted, when the air feels different. She lay still in the dark, staring at the ceiling. And then she heard it. Knock, knock, knock at her front door. Rachel told us her first thought was that something had happened. Maybe a neighbor, an emergency. She's a nurse. Her instinct is always to help. She got up, wrapped herself in a robe, walked down the hallway. The hallway felt longer than usual. She said she noticed the temperature had dropped. She could almost see her breath. And that's when the feeling hit her. Not fear exactly. Something deeper. Wrongness. She reached the front door, looked through the peephole. Nothing. Just the dark porch. Just the empty driveway. She stepped back, relieved. Told herself it was a dream. Maybe a branch falling. Maybe an animal. She turned around to go back to bed. She stopped. She turned around slowly and looked through the peephole again. This time, there was a face. Not close to the door. Not pressed against it. Standing far back, near the edge of the driveway, just inside the reach of the porch light. A person, standing perfectly still. Rachel said the most terrifying part was not that someone was there. It was the way they were standing. Not moving, not looking around, not pacing, not doing anything normal people do when they knock on a stranger's door at 3 a.m., just standing, watching. Rachel's hands were shaking. She grabbed her phone off the hallway table, called 911. While she was on the phone with the dispatcher, she looked through the peephole one more time. The figure was closer. They hadn't walked. There had been no sound of footsteps, no movement she had seen. They were just closer. Police arrived 11 minutes later. They searched the property, the neighboring yard, the tree line at the back of the neighborhood. They found nothing. No footprints, no sign of forced entry, nothing disturbed. But what they did find was something Rachel had missed entirely. Every single window in her house had been unlocked from the outside. All 7 of them, unlocked, silently, while she slept. Rachel moved out of that house 4 days later. She has never spent another night alone since. She still doesn't know who or what knocked on her door that night. And she still doesn't know how long it had been watching before it knocked. The other side of the baby monitor. If you're a parent, especially a new parent, this next story is going to be difficult to hear. I want to remind you, this is a true account submitted by a man named Daniel from outside of Portland, Oregon. He says he has never told this story publicly before, and after you hear it, you'll understand why. Daniel and his wife had just brought home their first child, a baby girl they named Lily. She was 6 weeks old, healthy, happy, perfect in every way. Their house was a 2-story home, older construction, the kind with beautiful original woodwork and rooms that hold sound in strange ways. One night, around 2:45 a.m., Daniel woke to Lily's soft fussing through the monitor. His wife was exhausted. He told her to stay in bed. He'd handle it. He lay there listening, waiting to see if Lily would settle on her own. She did. The fussing stopped. The monitor went quiet. Just that familiar, soft static. Daniel closed his eyes. And then he heard breathing. Slow, deep, deliberate. Not the small, rapid breaths of a 6-week-old infant. Adult breathing, close to the microphone. Daniel sat up. He told us his brain immediately went to a rational place, a crossed signal, a neighbor's monitor, on the same frequency, something technical. He was still half asleep. He wasn't ready to be afraid yet. He got up quietly, went down the hallway, began climbing the stairs to the nursery. The breathing continued through the monitor in his hand the whole time. He reached the nursery door. It was half open, the way they always left it. He pushed it open. The room was empty. Lily was asleep in her crib, undisturbed. The window was closed and locked. The closet door was shut. Nothing. Daniel stood there for a long moment, heart pounding. He checked the closet, under the crib, behind the rocking chair in the corner. Nothing. He went back to bed, told himself it was interference, told himself it was nothing. At 3:17 a.m., it happened again. But this time, it was different. This time, between the slow breathing, there were words. Soft, almost gentle, a voice whispering directly into the microphone. "She's so beautiful." Daniel was already running. He threw open the nursery door, and this time, he did not check the room first. He went straight to Lily, grabbed her from the crib, pressed her against his chest. The room was empty. The window was locked. The closet was empty. But the monitor in his hand was still hissing with static. And from somewhere deep inside that static, the breathing continued. The police found nothing that night. No sign of entry. No evidence of trespass. A technician came the following week and examined the monitor. He found no crossed signals, no technical explanation. Daniel replaced the monitor entirely. The new one picked up the same breathing on its very first night. They moved out of that house within the month. Daniel says Lily is 3 years old now, happy, healthy. She has started talking. But there is one thing she does that no one can explain. Sometimes, at night, she'll look at an empty corner of her room and wave. And when they ask her who she's waving at, she always says the same thing. The man who watches me sleep. If you're watching this alone, right now, I need you to take a deep breath. Because this next story is the one that, of everything I researched for tonight, kept me awake the longest. It was submitted by a man named Marcus, a traveling salesman, mid-40s, who spent nearly half his life in hotel rooms across the country. He told us he had always been a skeptic, practical, logical. "I don't believe in ghosts," he wrote, "but I believe in what I saw, and those are not the same thing." It was a Tuesday in March. Marcus was booked into a mid-range chain hotel off a highway in central Tennessee. Nothing remarkable about it. Beige walls, generic artwork, the hum of the ice machine down the hall. He was checked into room 312. He ordered room service, watched a little television, was asleep by 10:30. At 3 a.m. exactly, he woke up. He said the first thing he noticed was the silence. Hotels are never truly quiet. There's always the HVAC system, the muffled sound of other guests, traffic outside. But at that moment, the room was sealed in a silence that felt deliberate. He looked toward the window. The curtains were closed, but a thin line of parking lot light crept through the gap. And then he saw it. In the far corner of the room, near the closet, there was a shape. Not a shadow, not a trick of the light, a shape, a silhouette. The unmistakable outline of a person, standing perfectly still in the corner. Marcus told us he did not move for what felt like a full minute. He lay there, heart slamming, telling himself it was a coat on the chair, a trick of the darkness. His brain constructing patterns in shadow, the way human brains are designed to do. So he reached over, slowly, and turned on the bedside lamp. The corner was empty. The chair was against the wall. No coat, no bag, nothing draped over it. The closet door was closed. He sat on the edge of the bed, heart still hammering, drank some water, told himself it was a hypnagogic hallucination, a thing he'd read about once. Your brain half asleep, seeing things that aren't there. He turned off the lamp. The shape was back, but this time, it was closer, standing at the foot of his bed. Marcus turned the lamp back on immediately. Empty room. He turned it off. 3 seconds later, the shape. Closer. Standing beside the bed now, towering above him. He turned the lamp on, left it on. He did not sleep for the rest of the night. Sat in the bed, back against the headboard, watching the corners of the room. At 6 a.m., he went down to the front desk and checked out. He told the desk attendant what had happened, expected to be dismissed. The young woman behind the desk, barely 20 years old, looked at him for a long moment. Then she said quietly, "Sir, I'm not supposed to discuss this, but you're not the first person to check out of 312 early." He asked how many others. She looked down, quietly said, "Most of them." He asked if she knew what was in that room. She paused, then whispered, "A man died in that room 11 years ago. They found him in the morning, sitting upright in the bed. The light was still on. He was facing the corner." Marcus drove 4 hours home without stopping. He says he still travels for work, still stays in hotels. He just never ever turns off the light. I want to pause here for just a moment. If you are watching this alone, maybe in bed, maybe with your phone nearby, remember, everything I'm telling you tonight was submitted by real people. People who were, at some point, exactly where you are right now. This next story was submitted by a young woman named Sophia, 22, a college student from outside Chicago. She sent it with a message. I still have the texts. I kept them as proof. No one believes me. Maybe you will. Sophia was in her apartment alone on a rainy Wednesday night in late November. Her roommate was visiting family. She was studying for midterms. At 2:53 a.m., her phone buzzed. A text message. Unknown number. She almost didn't open it. But procrastinating, she picked up her phone. The message read, "Are you still awake?" Sophia assumed it was a wrong number. She typed back, "Wrong number. Sorry," and put her phone down. 30 seconds later, another buzz. "No, I have the right number." Sophia frowned, looked at the number again. She typed, "I think you have the wrong person. Who are you trying to reach?" The response came immediately. "You." Sophia's hands went cold. She typed, "Who is this?" A long pause. Nearly 3 minutes. Then, "Someone who has been watching you for a long time." She stood up, checked that her door was locked, checked her windows. She was on the 3rd floor, everything secure. She typed, "This isn't funny. Stop texting me or I'm calling the police." The response, "You won't? Because you want to know." Sophia told us she knew she should stop responding. But there was something compulsive about it, something pulling at her. She typed, "Know what?" The response came. "How long I've been inside your apartment," Sophia screamed, grabbed her keys, ran out into the rain, called 911 from the parking lot. Police searched the apartment thoroughly, every room, every closet, under every bed. Found nothing. No one there. Door locked, chain on, windows sealed. But Sophia refused to return. She slept in her car while officers finished. The next morning, she finally went back upstairs with 2 officers. She collected her things, and then she noticed something. On her desk, beside her laptop, was her study notebook, open to the page she had been working on the night before. 7 words, written in the margin, in handwriting that wasn't hers. "I was under the bed the whole time." The police never identified the sender. The number was traced to a burner phone purchased with cash 6 months earlier, 2 blocks from Sophia's apartment. 6 months earlier, before she had even moved in. Whoever it was had been watching her from the very beginning. We have one more story. This one is different. I debated whether to include it at all, because this one happened to me about 3 months ago, late autumn. I was working late, editing a video not unlike this one. Horror stories, other people's accounts. It was past 3 a.m. My house was quiet. My family was asleep upstairs. I was sitting right here, at this desk in this chair, surrounded by the glow of monitors and the distant hum of the heating system. I was reading through submitted stories when I came across one that stopped me completely. It was submitted anonymously. No name, no contact information, just a story. The story was about a person who made horror content online, a narrator who told other people stories in the dark. It described my house in detail, the desk, the monitors, the cup of coffee always on the left, my family sleeping upstairs. It described me. I told myself it was a coincidence, that horror fans sometimes write meta-stories, that it was nothing. But the story described one more detail. It said that the narrator, the one who tells stories, would eventually tell this story to their audience. That the telling of the story was the final step, because the audience, millions of people sitting alone in the dark afraid, was the real target all along. Not me, not you, all true. Or at least as true as any of us can know. If you made it to the end, you're braver than most. But before you go, turn on a light. Check the room you're in. Remember, the scariest monsters in these stories, they were never supernatural. They were the ones who moved without sound, the ones who were patient, the ones who watched and waited, the ones that looked just like everything else in the dark. Sleep well, If you can,